Good morning. My name is Sue Bamford. Janice and Jane have asked me to come along to join your coffee morning and to give you a short chat on my journey in tennis. Unfortunately, I cannot be on the call, so I have done this recording instead. I was born in the UK in the early 60s, and my parents immigrated to South Africa in 1969 for a 2-year contract, which turned into their lifetime. I was a young tennis player growing up in a country that was ravaged by apartheid, but offered sun, sport, and plenty of tennis. Apartheid did not affect me until I was in my early 20s, but I'll tell you more about that later. I learned how to play a good game, but never a brilliant game. I travelled, I played some ITF tournaments, but hated that travelling. When I finished school, I was always going to teach PE. That was always in my mind, but I didn't get into the university that I wanted to. So for some reason, I thought, well, why not take my tennis coaching qualifications instead? That was in 1980. I never looked back. I bought a small moped, strapped the balls to the back, popped my racket down my jumper, and off I went. I started coaching with absolutely no idea what I was doing. Goodness knows what happened to those players. I grew my own program at our local club, held huge holiday programs, started a leader program, and it just grew and grew. It was when I was not allowed to coach in a mixed race school that alarm bells sounded in my brain. I could not understand how sport was given to the whites in abundance, but the black children were not allowed to come to my white club. So when the opportunity came up to coach tennis in Corfu, I jumped at the chance. What a fantastic 5 years that was. Ups and downs, but mostly ups. I grew another program, coached in schools, and of course worked at the tourist hotels. After 5 years, I was offered the job of running the tennis at a huge Pierre Vacances hotel in Saint-Raphael in the south of France. Well, why not? Again, another fantastic year, a completely different experience to Corfu, but one that taught me so many lessons. After that year, I was pining for South Africa and my family, so I went back to Johannesburg to start again. Again, I started to build a program at my club in Boksburg. It grew and grew, but I wasn't happy. Something was missing. I think I just had enough tennis. I was burning out. So I changed jobs completely, moved to Cape Town, and my whole life changed. No tennis for 2 years. So after a while, I started to miss it. So I had a plan. Come back to the UK to make enough money to buy a house in Cape Town, because I loved Cape Town. I loved living there. And then return to Cape Town and build a tennis program in Tokai, where I lived. This was in 1996. Events led me to apply for an admin job at the Park Langley Tennis Club. I couldn't turn it was an admin job, but I'd never turned a computer on in my life. How was I going to get through this interview? Well, me being me, I blagged it. It was a tennis club. It was right up my street. It was exactly what I wanted to do. I arrived at that club one morning and I was greeted by Sandy Proctor for the very first time. Well, I could not have been luckier. There were 3 of us applying for that same job. But Sandy, being Sandy, made one job for all 3 of us. We all had different skills to bring to the table. And Sandy said we were all too good to let go. Well, she didn't tell us then on that day. She has told us later. So working under Sandy taught me so much. Then getting on court and coaching with Clint Harris was a joy, and he too taught me so much. 5 years at Park Langley then led to Sandy again offering me a job at Kent LTA as the county mini tennis coordinator. Our job was to roll out the new tennis awards, travelling all over the county and meeting other CMTCs in the region, and generally learning about the LTA, which then led to me becoming the county development officer for Kent, but being employed by the LTA this time. Again, a huge amount of learning was taken on. But I wasn't coaching and I missed it. I had already moved out into the country, so I decided it was time to start and build my own business again, closer to where I lived. So I left the LTA and started again, and this was in 2005. After a few years, Sandy asked if I would like to come to Bromley Tennis Centre and help her with the coach education side of the business. I had already taken my CTS, my Certificate of Tutoring Skills course, and I was starting to think that the long, cold evenings coaching was getting me down. I was getting older. So I worked at Bromley Tennis Centre, but not quite giving up the coaching, so I tried to do both. Eventually, it got too much to manage, so I gave up the coaching and ran the coach education at Bromley Tennis Centre. In 2014, Steve Matthews took over Bromley Tennis Centre, and I now work for Virtus, a very successful coach education centre run in Kent, Surrey and Sussex. I love this work, and I can tutor and run the admin, which, by the way, now I can switch on a computer, and I'm now going down to part-time. And this will now releases me to enjoy my latest passion, which is golf. Being out on the golf course, making friends, coming out back and sitting around the fire is exactly what a retired lady needs. It also reminds me very much of what my tennis clubs used to be like. Used to go out, used to have a game of tennis, and used to come back, make friends, sit around and have a cup of tea. I'm now getting into developing children at my golf club. Seems to be in a massive circle where I'm going around, but this time it's not a paid job. This is a voluntary job, and I'm loving every single bit of it. Golf is very much in the doldrums in that it's an aging sport. People my age are playing it, retired, but not enough children are coming through, especially girls. So this is my great passion for 2025 and onwards. But I can honestly say that my journey in tennis has been the best ever. There are not many people that can wake up every morning, look themselves in the mirror and say they love their work. I do, and I have done for nearly 50 years. I can also say that I have been there and done that, and have had very little obstacles in the way. I have been extremely lucky to meet Sandy, but also born with the guts to go out there and try everything. Never say no, as Tony Beddoe told us. And doors have opened to give me the best tennis life ever. So if anyone out there is thinking of a tennis career, I will always encourage them and say, go for it and never say no.